All right, it is time once again for your favorite 3x3 broadcast. I'm the voice, Kyle. That there is Vince Chang, the energy, and my man, the mountain Bas Rozendaal for yet another edition of Word on the Street. Busy week, busy last couple of weeks in 3x3. Allocations, some roster moves. We now know the world tour schedule. Some things have changed. Fellas, y'all excited?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Let's do it, baby.
Oh, we got a whole lot to get to. We'll touch on it all on this edition of Word on the Streets.
Now, everyone, we're breaking out the crystal ball because we're going to play a whole new game. Shout out to Bas putting this together. Big deal or no big deal? With all the early news, as Kyle was talking about, Bas, it's going to be crazy for 2025.
It is. And this is kind of a very early look at the 2025 season. You know, we can't wait to get it started. But we're going to be playing big deal or no big deal with all of the changes that we've heard over the last couple of weeks and some of the news that's been trickling in. You want me to start it off? I'm curious.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Bas, get it started.
All right, let's get it.
Go,
all right,
man.
cool.
Yes.
All right. Let's get into some of the news from the last couple of weeks. So to start, I'll start with the tournaments, right? Big news out of FIBA, actually already last year, about a new tournament popping up in March. The Champions Cup, you know, it's in Bangkok, Thailand.
Yeah.
Kyle, I know you're excited to go.
Yes,
You're
sir.
you should be. I'm not going to be there. I'm very sad about that. Anyways, the Champions Cup is a tournament in which 8 national teams will take on each other, 2 pools of 4. They'll battle for a grand prize, both on the men's and the women's side. And it's about the Zone Cup winners, the World Cup winners, the Olympic champs, and the best teams in a ranking besides the host, right? So my question is to y'all, is the Champions Cup a big deal?
Bas, it is absolutely a big deal. I can enumerate if you want me to. Of course, it's a big deal. It's the first ever tournament of the sort. Let me get my words together. And I think it's a great opportunity because we have this discussion all the time in 3x3. How do the Asia Cup winners really compare to the best in the world? That tournament, the level of competition there. Europe has always been the bar. So, you know, people tend to look down on the Zone Cup winners, the America Cup winners, the Africa Cup winners. So this is that opportunity for them to prove that they aren't just the best in their region, in their zone, that they belong among the best in the world. I think for teams like Australia in particular, a great opportunity for them to really prove that they're of the upper echelon. You know, they've been ruling the Asia Cup for years. I know Mongolia has been in there as well. You know, the America Cup with Canada and of course the United States, they performed well on the global scale. So I think it's cool. It's exciting. It's in a dope country. I've never been to Bangkok before. I need a Thai massage now more than I've ever needed it before. And also the implications involved in the tournament too, because the winners qualify directly to the World Cup 2024. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, there's some incentives, and Vince, what do you think as you know, coming from that perspective of, you know, a fan or you watching from the house? Like, what do you think? More national team stuff cool?
No, we got the World Cup, but also with the champions, I think it's more like a pre-Olympic matchup almost every time you see this tournament. You get to see different countries play against each other outside their regions. You just establish a lot of things, Kyle, you know, with the USA, the America, but then the Serbians get to play more countries in which they're not divided amongst different tiny teams. Like we're going to talk about Bordeaux versus the new Toulouse, can't pronounce it, you know, the
Toulouse.
But then you get, like what you said, you get many more competition on people on different regions, and there's more country pride. That's why I love seeing. I mean, we talked about in the last episode how Vienna had a chance to win in their home court, and now you have more countries going out there, be able to wave their flag and say that we're the best. That's what you get in the Olympics, but now with 3x3 expanding more to just one tournament being like the World Cup, now it's like the Champions Cup. Now you get to see who is the best of the best before you have a chance to go to another year toward that Olympics. Because I think this is all prep to see who wants to take gold when we go to 2028 in LA.
No, you're right. And to add to what you fellas are saying, I also think it's a big deal. And I'll tell you exactly why. National team tournaments, especially the high-profile ones, are a low barrier of entry for new people to get into the game. More people watch a national team tournament because TV stations might pick it up. More like in the home countries of those teams, more people will talk about it because a national team, per definition, is valued maybe slightly higher than a pro team. Not for everyone, obviously, but for the casual fan or the newer people getting into this game. So the more tournaments we can have throughout the year that are meaningful, that actually have people perform and that have the best teams in the world or the best teams in the zone cups in this case compete against each other, and the more tournaments like that we can have for people to get into our beautiful sport, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I got a point, though. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead, Vince.
But also,
go ahead.
Reading the article that Red Bull is giving support behind this Champions Cup as well, which to me, when I first got into 3x3, and correct me if I'm wrong, you two are the OGs, wasn't Red Bull like on the fence of really supporting 3x3 at first? Said it was a nice game, it was like street ball, we'll give a little bit, but now it's looking like they're diving into it, they're leading into it more. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I thought that was like that in the beginning.
So they have, and it's been like that for a while. They have their own kind of tour. And now this is the first time that really mixes. And I think it's a big step.
Yeah, I did some tournaments actually with Red Bull 3X in the U.S. a couple of years ago. So they've begun their investment in 3x3. They obviously understand how exciting the sport is. So I think it's a cool collab, and maybe there's a future, with that partnership. I don't know any details, but I think that's big. That's a good thing to point out. And yeah. The best of the best, man. Trim the fat. It's like an all-star. It's like an all-star tournament. I can't wait.
Whoa, no. I'm sorry, Kyle.
It is.
No. In the sense of if you were like related to like the All-Star tournament, the NBA, because the All-Star game, I'm saying right now there is trash. No.
No, let's not talk about that. No, let's not talk about that. We're not diving into that stuff. You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay. Like an All-Star game of 15 years ago.
There you go. I want the correction. Victor Wembanyama was the only player playing. He was getting mad at old heads. Like, bro, like it was
Kyle,
crazy.
I'm not even saying 15 years ago. That we're talking like the best All-Star games were 24 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. That's a fact.
2001, and after that, it was pretty boring. Anyway.
No, the Champions Cup is going to be a hell of a lot better than that. Let's stick with the theme, though. Let's stick with the theme of the day. Big deal or not a big deal. And let's get to the World Tour now. Y'all saw the schedule, right?
Yeah.
Last year, we had 17 events.
Mm-hmm.
That was back-to-back years we had 17. That's including the opener and including the World Tour final. This year, we're down to 15.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a big deal or not?
Back and forth. I mean, we lost Almighty and Wuxi, but I think it's a big deal because we gained Vienna. This is the first time they're going to be hosting a great tournament. We saw what Amsterdam was doing with their venue. Vienna they lean toward 3x3. I personally think it is not, and I mean this in the most respectful way. It's a big deal, but not as a big deal. They only took off 2 stops, but they're replacing a beautiful venue. Shout out to Almani and Wuxi, but it still gives a chance for us to see great venues like, Marseille, Ulaanbaatar. I mean, it's going to be, and I think Manama as the final. I do want more stops, but it's only 2. If they took off 5, I'd be like, oh, that's a big deal. But just 2, I think we're okay. But that's my personal opinion.
I tell you what, Vince, you are not making any friends with the players saying that right now. You want some more stops. No, that was. I think that's one of the biggest issues, and that's one of the reasons why they trimmed it down some. Is more doesn't always mean better. I think we've seen over the last couple of years the wear and tear of a season that lasts from the end of April all the way to December on the quality of play from some of the best teams. We definitely saw OOB start to wear down as the season went on. We heard players starting to complain about the number of events, combined with the challengers. The challenger schedule was released recently as well. So, this is me speculating, but I'm willing to venture to say that that's the reason why they trimmed it back some. Nothing to do with those cities.
No, nothing.
We enjoyed them. Had great masters there before, but just to make that schedule a little bit more player friendly, I think it'll help in the quality as the year goes on.
Yeah, and I dove into the handbook, of course. The final date to announce more world tours is the opener in Utsunomiya. And I remember from last year that the world tour in Neom, for instance, was announced very late. Right before the season started, they announced it. So my guess is maybe we still get one more. I'm not saying this is knowledge. This is just a guess. But I think I agree with you, Kyle, here, because we went back from 24 challengers last year to 17 this year, 17 masters to 15 this year. I think the biggest deal in all of that, though, is the fact that now we are more spread out through the year. So last year, I think come June we had, or come July, we had 6 tournaments. Now when it gets to July, we're already at 7. We have 3 tournaments in May compared to 1 last year. And last year we ended on a brutal stretch, like just brutal. Ooh. I looked into this again. Liman last year.
Tell me about it, boss.
We're starting way back in September. In September, they play a bunch of tournaments. Then they go home for a week at the start of October after the Wuxi Masters, I believe. They play Amsterdam October 12th. They fly to Macau. So that's halfway across the world. They play the week after they play in Macau. Then they fly back to Abu Dhabi. They play in Abu Dhabi the week after that. They stay in the region, play Manama. They stay in the region, play Neom the week after that. Then they fly to China, play Shenzhen. They stick around there for a week, and they're in the Hong Kong finals. Now we're in November 24th, bro. So they're on the road for 7 weeks. Don't get to see their families. Don't get to really get arrested, because when you're traveling, obviously, it takes a lot out of you. So I am very happy that we're kind of trimming down and we're spreading stuff more throughout the year. Now, obviously, last year the Olympics was a big break. We don't have that this year. So I think that is the big deal to me. The fact that we are more spread out. And let me get a kind of like an honorable mention in here as well. We have, I believe, the very first challenger on the African continent.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I got to admit, boss, I didn't look at the challenger schedule yet. I knew
Kigali, Rwanda. Kigali, Rwanda, bro. Like look, I may be mistaken. There may have been one event in the past, like early days, but there hasn't been a lot going on in Africa besides, the Africa Cup.
Yeah.
But a challenger in Rwanda was announced, which is great to me.
No, me too. Awesome. That's one. Continent that I've only been able to visit once with FIBA, and that's when me and Vince were in Egypt. But I've been to South Africa before. But there's so much talent,
yes,
and untapped talent in Africa. They haven't always had the facilities. They haven't always had the resources, and we have tried there before. But the interest is there. I think that's a big deal to me. Yep. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it too. And you know what? I'm going to be the guy that gives like one out of like smart, intelligent thing when it comes to this podcast. The last time I had the 5th person on Mount Rushmore. If you know, the Africa continent is actually bigger than all the continents over there. When you look at the globe, you can put all the continents in Africa. So just by that, there's so many places.
No.
How many?
No.
How many?
Wait. Every continent besides Asia, though. Asia is huge, bro.
Asia's huge, yeah. But all the other, like, the European...
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it's my fault. So, but... With like what Kyle was saying, it's like the amount of talent in places that you can go with 3x3. We always talk about this new league that's happened to Africa. There's going to be so many amazing African 3x3 players that once we just put a light on that country more, it's going to be phenomenal. And I can't wait to see that talent. But both of you, I feel like the little brother. Both of you agreed with me with what I said about the cutting down of the tours. Like, I have a little brother in this, man.
Because Vince, you spitting facts today, man.
Yep, you are. You are on point. Yeah. You're on point. You're on point.
Right. We look at you in episode 4. I see the growth.
Yeah, man. Normally you look like the pencil eraser, but now you're sharp. It's the other end.
Get on him, Bas.
Okay, you know what, Bas? I got you, man. Yo, this is why you got Cheeto stains on your T-shirt. Like, get out of here, all right?
Yeah, you do. I did notice that. I did see that, but
all right, Dad.
All right, listen. All right. No, so Boss gets into this a lot. I don't really get into this. To me, I'll give you my answer before I even ask y'all. For me, it's not a big deal, but the allocations, top 10 teams selected their World Tour Masters. Oob selected 4, several other teams. Vienna's got 3, Amsterdam's got 3, Radonvaris, Riffa, Lehman, Partizan, and new team London, which is used to go as Princeton. They selected their world tours that they're going to start hard seeded. Not a big deal to me, not really. Does anyone have a reason why this is a big deal?
I got one.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it's a big deal in general. I like to know where teams are going beforehand so we can kind of start the season prep. But the one big deal that I could see in this is the fact that Team Riffa was hard seeded to the Ulaanbaatar Masters, which is a day before the World Cup, right? So obviously you get to Ulaanbaatar early, but you play a 2-day tournament. You have 1 day of rest, and then you head into a 7-day World Cup, where that same Team Riffa might be operating as Team Belgium. Look, we don't know. Maybe they go in a whole different direction, but the last few years, Team Riffa has been Team Belgium. So for me, that kind of is a big deal because that means they might be tired, they might not have the best preparation, or they will have good preparation. But in my book, playing a day before the World Cup, and the World Cup is a long tournament, it's tough. So that's a big deal.
Well, I wouldn't expect that they play their full complement, right? So I wouldn't expect them to play so well in Ulaanbaatar, and maybe they sacrifice that Masters for the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, why would you hard seed to the Masters then?
Well, that's true.
Think about that.
That's a question.
Pick a tournament. Pick a tournament that you want to be in, right? And I don't know. To me, it's an odd choice. That's why I wanted to highlight.
I mean, I think to me it's a big deal because I also think about how teams, when they're sponsoring themselves, flying to certain places, they can pick and choose where they want to go. You know, I always talked about how like Team Harlem and stuff, you know, they didn't have that sponsorship. So they can like say, okay, we can afford to go to this Masters, to this. We can pick and choose where we're going to go as also a player. But this Bas, you also made another point. You got to think about, if you're picking this tournament, there's a one over about rest. Okay, we're not getting the rest, but about the people that can choose the rest. Okay, we can pick this tournament. Let's wait 2 Masters. We're going to be ready. We're ready to do this other one and get that first prize, that $40K in our pocket, instead of like just going around, going back to back. So I think as a player standpoint, it's nice to play chess and pick and choose where you're going to be at what time, and also can set around your schedule with families and stuff.
Lehman also selected Ulaanbaatar. Hard seed.
Yep.
I mean, I just want to throw that out there.
Less people off of that Lehman team have been part of the Serbian team, right? Vasic has been a mainstay, obviously, but yeah.
All right, Bas, don't mess up my transition. It was going to go beautiful. So Lehman also selected Ulaanbaatar with their hard seed. Speaking of Lehman, they will very likely not be featuring one of the most famous players to play in 3x3 this year. As y'all know, some of the early rosters were announced, and Stefan Kojic was not validated as a part of Team Lehman. Is this a big deal or not?
Please.
Go ahead, Chang, take it.
Huge deal. This is
massive.
What are you doing? Let's just go from stats. Bas knows stats. 2024 top scorer, 282 points. He was second in highlights. He was also a top T assister. That means he was unselfish. He beat Dejan, the maestro, Mustorovic, no matter how good he is in shooting, in 2s, and was ranked, 3? No. 2? No. 1. So you're saying basically almost a fight for MVP, one of the best players in 3x3, is not validated for your team. It's just losing a star. So I don't know what they have in their pockets. This is nuclear, and it's stupid.
No, I fully agree. And look, I'll add to that because it is a gigantic deal. The man just became the second leading scorer of all time. First of all. So that is insanity. The fact that he's not on that team that he's been a part of ever since 2016, 2017. He is the heliocentric piece to their offense that has driven them to all of their wins. They played one tournament without him, and they were up and down all season. Came in sixth, so kind of middle of the road there, but this is why it's even a bigger deal. On their allocation, and I'll try not to dive too deep into this because this is real nerd stuff. Your team ranking is based on either your top 3 players or the 7 best tournaments combined points for all of your players from last season.
Mm-hmm.
All of the players on Lehman that were validated have right around the 550,000 points. Stefan Kojic, the top 10 player in the world when it comes to points, has 200,000 points more. I kind of went into math, and this is an educated guess because the math is very difficult, but they are ranked 7th or 8th right now, right? They're the 8th ranked team in the world. I think if Kojic was validated, they might have been 5th. And 5th means you get one more Masters allocated to your team. I'm not sure they would have been 5th, but they could have been 5th. And based on that, it is huge.
Revealing. Yes. And
it's huge. And that means
revealing.
something.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you, Bas. When I saw that, now, I don't know anything for sure, but just watching that team last year, and we all know that Kojic is an alpha dog. He's the one of the utmost competitors, and you see he gets fiery sometimes. The politics within a team, and Bas knows this because he playing 3x3 for so long. When you have that alpha dog on the team, in the way that he behaves with his teammates, sometimes it rubs him wrong. It creates a culture within that team that they can't overcome. You know, he and Vasquez had played together and had so much success for such a long time. And even those two last year, many times I saw were bickering. The energy on that team, it's the behind the scenes. So I think there's some contention in the ranks, and I think that might have had something to do with Kojic not being on Lehman's roster. Now, I will say this too. That's a bad man. If you think he's not going to be on somebody's team this year, you done fell and bumped your head. We will see Chef Koya cooking for some other team this year. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Lehman, but where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, so I assume it's something within the team off the court, but that one to me was maybe the biggest snub. The next biggest snub was Thibaut Vervoort not being validated for RIFA. Who wants to go first on this? Is this a big deal or not really a big deal? Bas, go. Go, Bas.
I'm gonna swerve on this. I don't think this is a big deal.
What?
I really don't think this is a big deal. Look, I like Vervoort's game. I think he picked up a different role last year. He was a good secondary creator. He found his groove next to Doncor. It took a little bit. But the Antwerp and Riffa teams, the same team but they changed names, have been 3rd in the World Tour standings over the last 3 years, one of which was without Vervoort. Without Vervoort, and I'm not saying, look, they're going to miss him, obviously. Without Vervoort, Forts really stepped up his game and played a different role. He was forced into a weird spot last year where he had to screen, he couldn't create. He was in an awkward position, and it didn't quite work for me. I think they're the best version of Riffa last year was a really good team, but they barely ever got to that level, and there were too many shooters on the court to me. So I think, of course, look, the game of 3x3, whether Thibaut plays this year, is to be determined. Apparently, let's hope he picks up a spot on the team somewhere. But look, I think Riffa is not going to miss him per se, in the sense that I think Forts can step up and play a bigger role. I think they can find a 4th player to come in there and do some things for them. The Volk is going to be out of injury anyway, so they still have a bunch of people on that squad that can hoop. And Doncor, without Vervoort, was actually he was incredible last year, but he was very good the year before without Thibaut as well. Okay. So to me, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, to me, it is, because I still believe that must-see TV is worth a watch. Now, what's happened is We remember the days with Vervoort and Celis and DeValk and Thierry Marion and Raphael Bogarts and
Yep.
that the old Vervoort fit in beautifully then because he was a featured weapon on the offense and he performed. I think it was the World Cup or the Europe Cup? We were in Antwerp. This was several years ago. This must have been I can't remember if it was the World or the Europe Cup. But
Europe, I think.
Okay, they failed to medal, lost in the bronze medal game, and Thibaut was not the same after that. Ends up going to Futian. We know what kind of disaster that was.
That was horrible.
Rejoins the team last year and showed some sparks. He still wasn't the Vervoort that we had grown accustomed to seeing. But what happened in his absence was we saw Forts fit in seamlessly. He became a weapon, a different kind of weapon. He could shoot it. He's a bigger guy. I think the chemistry on that team was better. Obviously, they had to retool pretty much the whole squad. Duvall goes down. But I think pound for pound, no pun intended, I think that Vervoort is a more dynamic weapon when he's playing at his best. The elephant in the room from the moment that he rejoined the team was how will he and Forts fit? We know that Donker now has become the centerpiece of that team. He's the star.
Yeah.
They were clashing when Vervoort played well, Forts played poorly. When Forts played well, Thibaut played poorly. The chemistry was all out of whack on that team.
Yep.
So you're right. It's not enough ball to go around. But what they did was they made a choice, Vince. They made a choice. They said must-see TV or Jonas Ark, and they went with Forts. To me, that's a big deal, and I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah, and can I one thing, Vince, before you go, just for everybody, just to kind of get what we're getting at here. Validations are just a couple of players, right? It could still mean Vervoort is on the team, but the fact that, the same thing with Kojic, he had more points than the next guy on the squad. They may have shifted in rank with his addition, so it's kind of telling that he's not there. And that's why we're really making a deal out of this, right? Vince, go ahead.
No, I want to say also, when you mentioned Forts and Mushy TV, it was kind of when Allen Iverson went to the Nuggets and with Carmelo Anthony. Who wanted the ball? If one played good, the other one kind of played bad. If one played good, so it kept back and forth. I'm with Bas on this because 2021 Olympic Must TV, that was his breakout. That was the genesis. That's when you did not ever get away from your TV. In 2 years, he's now in syndication because now we're trying to see the old Must TV.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Look, it's like old school Family Matters, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's like, you could always go back to those episodes, but those aren't live anymore. I have to say this. He was a top dog going from that 2021 season to 2022. Okay, and I wrote some notes down. This guy was getting buckets. He led in blocks as well, also assists. He was an all-around player. Then he falls off. But then jumps off the deep end and gets tamed with the dragon and a couple of dimes in his pocket. Little pun there when he's on Futian. So now he's in the background, and then when we see when he's trying to find a shot, he's airballing a couple of those.
A couple.
Okay, more. Okay, but I'm saying when he's behind that arc, you should have anxiety as if Dejan Majstorovic is about to shoot. As in Arvin Slaughter's about to shoot. As in, Wright Corge is about to shoot. After a while, people weren't that scared of him no more. Okay? Look, as Kendrick Lamar says, when the full moon is out, the dogs are out, and I've been a dog. Like, you know what I mean? So the full moon has definitely...
Him cook.
Let
him cook.
He ain't cooking no more, okay? It's a full moon, let the dogs out. I've been a wolf. He's no longer a wolf. He's becoming an elderly puppy. That's weird to say because he's still young.
That's a hell of a combination there. An elderly puppy. I don't think I've heard that before.
You get some creative ones here. Because, again, remember when he came out? He was the young guy. This guy, he quit his job. But now it's like, bro, why are you shooting like you got arthritis everywhere? Now, granted, traveling. I can't say nothing about injuries and stuff like that if you're tired. But come on, you got to be a deadly shooter to play in this game.
It's a mental game with him. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move to the next topic, which is new team names this year.
Ooh.
Some new team names this year. I'll let y'all tee off first, and I'll give y'all my take on these new team names. Team London, formerly known as Princeton. Team Bon Telecom Basket, formerly known as St. Pauli. Team Toulouse, formerly known as which team was that? Yeah, Paris. Carolina, formerly known as San Juan, and Shinagawa, formerly known as I don't even know who the hell.
Saitama.
Saitama. Okay. So these are the new team names. Number one, London is an odd choice for Princeton to go with. Right.
We got
yeah. Okay. I'll get into mine later. Vince, go ahead. Vince, go.
I was gonna say we're going back to the colonizers. Like, yeah, go back. We can say in the podcast, but here's the thing. Shout out to my man Martin over there. He's been handling with the UK 3x3. Martin, shout out to you, bro. But it's interesting that they're choosing London. London Bridge is falling down. That to me threw me off guard, Kyle. I would never expect that for them to do that. Like, why? I don't know.
Apparently, London is the name of an American city.
Yes, and apparently it is in Ohio.
Yes, in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a sub-city to Columbus, apparently, or something. But anyways,
all the
it is weird. It is weird.
You're getting all the colonizers in here.
It is. Let me reiterate. It's really fucking weird. Like come on. Look, I mean, Princeton is at least known for having like a really good school. What's London known for? Having a drive-through beer stop? Like, come on.
Fish and
some
chips.
Guinness. We're gonna have some
No, that's London, England. I'm talking London, Ohio. Like, what are they known for a Walmart? Like, come on.
Right. Yeah. But so I guess it is a big deal. That's a big deal in the wrong way.
Go. No, I was gonna say, like, you think Paris wants to call that upon themselves? To lose?
Right.
Oh,
to lose or not to lose?
To lose. That is the question.
We're probably not saying that right. It's probably Toulouse. Toulouse.
Something like that. No, look, I'm kidding. I think that one's the biggest deal to me, though. I think Paris has become a household name in 3x3. It's a marketable name. It's a huge city, and they switched it, which is odd to me. I'm not sure why, but they did it, and that's kind of a big deal.
That's what I was going to say, Bas. We know how important established franchises are in building a sport, right? So that means you want to keep your core talent in place when you're building, and also the name. Cool if your sponsor changes. That's fine. But when you're building a franchise, names mean something. So I don't like these team names changing. People are going to be wondering, who the hell is this team? Where the hell is that team? Bas, all year long we're gonna be saying this team formerly known as that, known as that. You see what I mean? So I'm not crazy about the team name changes. Vince, what you think?
I mean, it's funny thing. I hit up Antonio Relat and Allende from Puerto Rico and say, why'd you guys change it to Carolina? I didn't get a response. I thought because maybe it was somebody's abuela or maybe a girlfriend named Carolina, and they're like, hey, we're going to give homage to them. They're like, we just changed it. I'm like, okay, but there's identity, which I'm also thinking a big deal in a good way. This Bon Telecom Basket. I mean, talk about 19 and 20. Take out the new knees. These are young pups ready. 20 years old and 19. Now this is, and you told me about that man.
But
Gizman's going crazy.
And that's a great sponsor, right? So they're young enough and new enough to be able to change their team name. This is the time to do it. So for St. Pauli, nobody knew what the hell St. Pauli was anyway until last year. So for them, it's fine. For almost everybody else, I don't like it.
No, and to add to that, look, Bon Telecom Basket is a professional basketball organization in the sense of 5-on-5 basketball. So there's clubs now getting involved in the 3x3 basketball, which is a big deal. They also have an addition. I don't think we have him on the slate, but they've added a kid on the team that's played for Hanover last year, who's 19 years old and 7'3", playing next to Giesman, which is going to be insane. Trust me. And I don't know if they're going to win, but it's going to be nuts. That's going to be, it's going to be the most length ever. Pause. But it just
Pause penalty. You got two more.
Take that.
No.
You got two more.
Pause penalty. It's if you
I'll take that one. Pause. That's two.
So wait. All right, everybody's watching. We're going to. It's called P squared. Basically, if you say something, you get 3 pauses per podcast, and then you gotta do something crazy. It could be push-ups. It could be do a crazy post. There's gonna be a penalty because we gotta watch what we say nowadays.
All right, I'm gonna be careful from now and then. I'm not gonna be called my own. That's for sure. All right. Look, moving on, fellas. Moving on. I got one for y'all. Vince, let me ask you this, and I'll get to you, Kyle. But I this is one that I noticed when in the team validations. Team Ulaanbaatar is adding Arjen the Archer and Ulaanbaatar, aka we call him Groot. Which makes them, for now, again, 5 players are validated. They had their core players from last year, Davasambu, Enkbat, and Tsokt. Now they've added 2 other Mongolian players, reuniting the Mongolian national team as well. Is Ulaanbaatar becoming an all-Mongolian team a big deal?
I want to say yes. The reason why. They started here in 3x3 in 2017, all right? They were an all-Mongolian team, 16th in the world. Next year, 19th. Next year, 14th. 2020, 10th. 2021. They add Steve Sir, the general. They bump up all the way to 6.
The sheriff.
All right, the sheriff. Sorry, the sheriff. You're right. Thank you very much, Kyle. That's why you got me. Thank you.
The man with the trucker hat should know that.
I'm laying down the law. Damn it, I'm laying down the law.
You got to pick
my
up
authority.
But they're 6th in the world, and also Arjen is then fan-voted favorite, most spectacular player. Then they've been in the top 12 ever since. Now that's with the assistance of a Canadian, the sheriff. Now it's time for you to step up and see what your country really has. Pure Mongolia. All right. I'm a fan of them. And we all say this everywhere. Everyone who is listening and watching this podcast, you can be in Antarctica having a tournament. There are Mongolian fans.
That's a
there.
fact.
Somehow. There'll be a penguin there with a Mongolian flag for sure.
That's a fact. And we're going to spend a lot of time in Mongolia this year.
Oh, yeah.
But let me just correct. But are y'all kidding? This is not a big deal.
What?
Did y'all not see? Did you not see this coming? Did you not know that eventually? Look, Steve Sir's 42 years old. Dougal Seal was literally trying to kill people out there on the court.
42 fouls per game.
Okay. And they had been waiting for Groot and Arjen to take that step up to be the premier players on the A team. Okay. Arjen made the mistake at the Olympic qualifiers. Right, we got it. He's been punished. Groot has consistently gotten better and better and better. This was the natural progression of what was happening with Mongolian 3x3. I saw this coming a year and a half, 2 years ago. This ain't really a big deal. I expected it.
But devil's advocate, real quick. Hoyich, what if he goes to Mongolia? I'm just saying.
Whoa! Now you're just throwing. Now you're just throwing random stuff. Wow.
I'm just thinking.
No.
Wow.
Another shooter.
No.
A younger shooter for a shooter.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Vince, if this happens, I will pay for your hair transplant. Well, no. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm fucking with you. All right. I agree with both of you. Actually, I think Kyle, you have a point that this was coming, and that we could all see this coming. It doesn't make it less of a big move to me because I think Arjen fits in that spot that Steve Sir leaves. I think he is a more dynamic player at this stage of his basketball career. I think the high pick and roll combination with him and Ulaanbaatar is deadly, and it's proven itself. Mm-hmm. It is also a big deal on the back end because in national team basketball 3x3, it's kind of at this point it's proven that you kind of need two teams to function at the pro level to be able to collect enough points to be a part of like an Olympic cycle, for instance. Now I know the next Olympic cycle is a long ways away, but there could be some points changes that make next year matter already, not this year. This move makes their second team considerably worse. Sansar now is worth absolutely nothing. And there's some interesting look, they have like 17 teams on the pro circuit each year, and all respect to all those teams. There's some interesting players on there, but by far the best players on the rest of the Mongolian teams were Anand Aryanbold and Ulaanbaatar. And they are no longer a part of that group. They're now part of the Alpha team. I think it makes their second team worse, so I'm curious to see what they're going to bring for that second squad to step up and to be a part of the pro circuit.
Well, that's going to be a project, boss, for some time to come. They're going all in. They've invested. Yep. They're going all in on this team, and I think they might actually surprise some people. I'm really going to keep a close eye on Aryanbold this year.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
And it's a weird thing because here's the thing: no matter who you root for or not root for 3x3. Everyone has a soft spot for Mongolia. Every tournament, you just, they're one of the teams, they're like a Canadian team, and like, you can't hate them. You can't. Now, when the headbutt happened, you saw like, oh, they got more bite than you think.
Oh, yeah, believe that. Yeah.
But they're a team that, we're pushing for you. Like, come on.
They are the ultimate underdogs.
Yes.
They're the ultimate underdogs, and it's hard not to root for them. One team that was not usually an underdog, for many years, they were the favorite. Novi side. The new Novi side. They've constructed a new team, guys. All right. They got my guy Atanasov. I like him a lot. Bielich, Milakovic. What do you make of the makings of this team? And will we see a rebirth of Novi side? Okay. Well,
I want you
maybe
to
I take it
go
too far
in.
there, boss.
No, but no, this is it. We just talked about names, and there's legacy to a name. That's also another thing. Novi side has a lot of weight in 3x3. Are they ready to step up to the challenge to be able to live up to it? Because that's the there you go. There you go, boss.
They aren't.
They aren't. But why would you want that on your back then? Because that's more pressure for you.
Well, maybe that's the only team that they can play with. I mean, who the hell else?
Change your name.
They could have picked a different name, man. And look, individually, Atanasov, I think, is a really good offensive player, right? Pro circuit last year, 7.3 points, 5.2 rebounds per game, dominated on the challenger circuit. So again, a big guy that can shoot, but on defense, moves slower than molasses.
Yes,
he is hot garbage on defense, and that is no disrespect to Atanasov because he tries hard, but he can't do shit. The other guys, I mean, Milakovic has proven that he can be a somewhat of a scorer, but he needs a secondary scorer. Sucher was that for him last year. Milakovic was actually the one that did it for him 2 years ago when they played together in Japan for Utsunomiya.
Mm-hmm.
Bielich, yeah, sure. Matovic, sure. I mean, I'm sure these guys are going to have some energy. They're young dogs. But, bro, compared to the old Novi side and the legacy that they left, this is just Novi sad, man. Come on, this is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
My man,
Don't you dare take that name. And now, don't you dare take that name. Oh, he got real close. Now you got to zoom out your camera again.
I got to zoom out my camera.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, put the sad face.
No, this thing operates with with that feature.
Oh, there we go. Hey, I'm Montgomery over there. All right. No, but let me one last thing. Look,
Mr.
I mean,
Kugler.
Dusan Bullet.
Oh,
actually, oh my God, what are you doing? Oh.
Come on, Tiny, work with me here. Don't embarrass me in front of my friends. Don't embarrass me in front of my friends.
Pause real quick. He looks like a director of movies on Tubi.
All right.
Next title, Novi Sad.
My friend. Hey, all right.
Anyway, Bas, that was actually, I want to hear that on a broadcast. But again, if they do turn heads and do great, cool. But Novi Sad,
Yo.
That's gonna carry a lot of weight, bro.
Yeah.
That's a bar, boss. That's a bar. I like that one. There's a couple other teams. There's Bordeaux. They made some additions with Shukur and Virare. Saw him on IG earlier today. I like Tupac Shukur. West Side.
Wow, that was a great call.
and Virare, he definitely took a step back last year. I don't know. I'm not really. I'm neither here nor there on Bordeaux's additions. I don't know how y'all feel.
I mean, the B is for the B team for France. Like, I don't know what they're going to do, but at the same time, France has the ability to produce a lot of great 3x3 talent. We saw what they did in the Olympics a couple of months ago, we could say, kind of. But, and mixing and matching, it happens. We'll see. This is a team that I will say right now, we will see how good they can be, because they do have some talent on that team, and will they step up to the challenge of 3x3?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think this moves the needle all that much. To be honest with you, look, I like Antoine Eto'o. He's already on that squad. I like what he does. I think having him play with Villare, who's proven he can kind of do a lot of different things. He used to be able to score and play, make a lot. This year took a step back, mostly due to injury, actually. But he has a knack for hitting big shots, and he can kind of be the glue guy on the squad. Suture is a wild card to me. It's kind of like a break glass in case of no Eto'o guy. I don't think I would play them together, to be honest with you. Especially because they still have Auger. It's a big dude. He can shoot a little bit. He can play it down low on the block, and they have a weird guy. I mean, Eddie Steiner, who's probably about 6 foot tall, and he screens a lot, which is an odd fit to me. But anyways, this team is just kind of like a bunch of guys together. What I think it does improve, though, because I think Villare is from the region of Bordeaux. I think he used to play with a team Bordeaux in the past, right? Him and his buddies. And I think he goes back to now his group of friends. And I think that might unlock something in him. So let's see how they do on the Challenger circuit. I don't think it moves the needle all that much, but it's nice for Villare at least.
Here's what I think. I think this is the first and the last time Bordeaux will make this podcast this year. All right. Hangzhou.
Oh, yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, in my notes, I was like, what have they done in the last 4 years?
Yeah.
I haven't seen them in college.
No.
Now,
the Hangzhou squad changes are a little bit more worthy of discussion. But this is another one that I saw coming again this year because Trajkovic, who I thought for the longest was their most talented player.
Yes.
There was some contention. There were some issues on that team. That breakup was bound to happen. Samardzic's kind of an awkward, kind of funny player. Sometimes he has some big games, but they're now gone. So Hangzhou, who 2 years ago hit the scene, we were paying attention to them last season. We thought that they were going to take that next step with Goran Vidovic and the dog pound, getting frisky. It didn't quite translate to a successful 2024 for them. And I don't think, I know that there's contention with those players, but I can't see them getting better in 25 as a result of these moves.
I would maybe disagree with you on that. I think they found something last season at the end of the year when they brought in Alexander Bursak and played with lineups without Trajkovic. Because Trajkovic, again, you mentioned, he was the biggest talent on the squad. But he didn't play any defense. None.
That's true. And that was one of their issues with them.
That was one of their issues. And they ran in Manama, as you might remember. They came in fourth, and they played with that lineup where Bursak, Kovacevic, Samardzic, and Vidovic were all active. With Kovacevic and Bursak the main screeners, Samardzic was kind of like an oddball handler in that case, and Vidovic was the main guy driving all the action. I like Vidovic's game a lot, by the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a multifaceted guy. I think Trajkovic, again, not playing defense, not coming with the same physicality, the same mentality as the other guys in the dog pound, made him the odd guy out in this case. And I think from that tournament, what you take away is Samardzic may not be the best fit because they need a secondary ball handler.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they open up a new can of Serbian players we've never heard about, something that happens quite often in 3x3, then they could still be relevant. Now, the one thing that I will mention that is a big deal is the fact that they did not validate anyone. They did not validate a single player. They are the highest ranked team, 14th team in the world that did not validate any players. Now, obviously, if they don't do this fast, they're gonna not get any challengers, and it all depends. Like, do they have a squad? Do they have anything going this year? I'm curious. I haven't heard anything.
Now, Bas, I know it's late in the podcast, but I wonder because most people listen first time. Validation, like exactly. Explain that to the listeners a little bit when it comes to validation, when it comes to 3x3.
So you want to keep a core of your team, and there's a certain date before which you have to, at least give 3 names to FIBA 3x3 that are going to be a part of your team going into the season. Based on either those 3 players or the top 7 tournaments from the last year, combined points for all players in those tournaments, your team ranking is built.
Yeah.
So you'll see some teams in the top, for instance, Raron Vares, who we're not talking about the players, obviously not on their squad because they've announced on Instagram that they're going to be back with the same 6 guys. Mm-hmm. They only validate Pukelis, Jaugas, and Kumpis because they got the most points for their team this past year. Yeah. Other teams may choose to validate more. In the top, you have UB validating 5 players. So securing those 5 players for the season for their team, Stojicic, Majstorovic, Brankovic, Nerandzic, and Barac. Mm-hmm. So there's a choice to be made there. And this is an early look at what a team could look like. You have a roster of 6, and you can still substitute players going up to 8 even through a season. But these are the first players that will be a part of your team going into that 2025 Pro Circuit season.
Yeah.
And look, the one team, and I'll get the transition going this time. The one team that I think may have made the biggest splash of the offseason. We'll talk about them next. There's 2 questions that are in this. I'll ask them to Kyle first, and then Vince, you can come in second. Miami validated, to start with, 4 players. The same 4 players we saw the end of the season last year. Mitch Hahn, Dylan Travis, James Parrott, Trey Bardsley. Mm-hmm. But a couple of days ago, I checked the FIBA 3x3 website, and who shows up validated on their roster? It's Henry Caruso from Team Princeton stepping into Miami, and Andrew Kelly, who played in China last year, somehow shows up on the roster. So there's 2 questions in this. One, are the new additions a big deal? And I think the second answer I'd like to get from you guys is it a big deal that this version of Team Miami, especially the 4 guys that I started with, get to play a full season? Because last year they kind of jumped on the squad halfway through the year.
Yes, you're damn right. It's a big deal. I'm expecting big things from Miami this year, but here's the caveat to that. I think Miami, those core 4 guys, they tend to play better when the odds are stacked against them. It's when they're uncomfortable, when they seem to play their best, is when the expectations are low that they seem to elevate their game. We saw last year when, people started the buzz around Miami and what they were doing, it really started to escalate, and they played one of the worst tournaments we ever seen them play. Right after, they had just won a Masters. So coming into this year, I do think that them having their core 4 intact and a whole season, fresh start from the beginning, I think it's an opportunity for them to prove that they are amongst the top 3 teams in the world from the beginning. Now, as far as the additions, the new additions, Andrew Kelly coming over from China. I like Andrew Kelly. I'm not sure how he fits on that team, but I do know how Henry Caruso will fit on that team. That was a hell of a pickup coming over from Princeton. For him to be in the mix, that makes that team even more versatile. We know about his rebounding ability. Like, he is the definition of a Swiss Army knife. Henry Caruso can do everything for you outside of shooting 2s at a high clip. He'll knock them down sometimes, but I think his addition to that Miami team is massive. Andrew Kelly, good player, question mark, but I think Miami, they're gonna have something cooking this year.
Man, Dylan, we know he can shoot the two when he wants to if he's not doing the dirty work. When he was on Omaha, this man was the go-to shooter. Trey Bardsley, this man quicker than Speedy Gonzalez. Can knock it down. Big cinnamon, big fella can knock it. If Henry Caruso is able to work on his twos in the offseason, I think he can fit the position of Jimmer Fredette was. Because he is an engine that keeps going. And he's a younger version. Now, Jimmer, all-star. He can do that. But to give that spark, and you can give him the rock for him to make a play. I'm not saying, now look at me. I know you're staring at me. I'm just saying, I think Henry Caruso has the ability to make things happen out of nowhere. Because not only he can make a play, he can also clean up a bad play within a second. His pogo stick ability and also his defense.
I think he's the second most dynamic player on that team next to James Parrott.
Yeah.
Trey Bardsley is straight shooter. He's gonna open up the real deals game too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
now that those ball screening, some of that dirty work, the hustle plays. Mm-hmm. Oh man, Caruso takes that. He relieves the best players on that team of that pressure, and in the process, he becomes one of the best players on that squad. I'm anxious to see him. I can't lie.
And here's the thing: you have two. Sorry to cut you off, boss.
No.
Two players that are willing to do the dirty work, bar none. Real Deal and Caruso. With those two, they're the Bash brothers from the Mighty Ducks. They're ready to go at any time. And so I'm excited. This is delectable. Boss, what are you gonna say, man?
I think you guys. Let me start off by saying I think you guys are not high enough on Kelly. I think he
okay.
No, look, I'm not gonna say he's gonna change the world in 3x3, but I think this guy played in China, and you're often cast as a lead actor in a team like that. I think with more structure around him and a team that more talent, he might be able to fit a niche role. He's a great rebounder. He's a very, very good rebounder. I think if he fits into kind of that screen and roll type of game that they can play. Now, they usually play screen and pop with all the guys they have now, but if they can make him into a screener and a roller, then I think he's a good addition. Yeah. What I think the biggest deal is that I take out of this is not just a move by the players from Miami. Who owns Team Miami? It's Team USA. That means that these 6 fellas, will represent the United States on the international level this year. And why is that a big deal? That's a big deal because last year it was only Mitch Hahn and Dylan Travis a part of that kind of core of Team USA, which means you get a salary, you get funded, you get paid, and that means you get to practice. Mm-hmm. Trey Bardsley and James Parrott still had a job on the side, took up their vacation days and more to play for Team Miami because they got added late in the season. Now what you're saying to me is they get to practice not only with the 4 guys that they performed well with last year, they get to practice with the talent of Henry Caruso and Andrew Kelly as well. I think if they get it right, and look, this is very much a flow team with the core 4 that they have. If they get it right, then they could potentially be a top 2, maybe a top 1 team in the world. Just saying.
Hey,
mind a second like that.
I agree.
Oh, sorry, Kyle.
No, I was gonna say I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and I was saying also with that USA camp, you may still have Kareem Maddox and Canyon Barry coming in working out with them. You still have one of the top coaches. You got a lot of artillery that can be used in the battle, but they also have to produce. You can't just have all this great workout and great gyms and you're dropping millions of dollars when you have private houses saying, oh, we're going to take the Olympics and then fall short. But you have people and men on this team that's going to be putting the work. And to your point, Bas, now I'm interested in Kelly's work ethic. You're coming in at 6'7". You're a big fella. What you going to do to prove you're being on this team? We always talk about people got, role players. If your role is to get every rebound in the world, go gadget rebound. Gallop them up. You got to score 1 point. You got 4 other scorers on this squad that could do the work. You just make sure we get the ball. You're right, boss.
Him and Caruso might be 10 rebounds a game combined, bro. Like that's
crazy.
It's gonna be tough. Yeah, but also from the storytelling dynamic, I think it's a great story to watch Miami and those players being down home, humble dudes from the Midwest and the big team change last year.
Yeah.
People can get behind that. They're just good down to earth people and great 3x3 players. So they could be working on a masterpiece this year. I don't want to blow them up too much, but they're one of the teams I'm most excited about coming into 2025. That's a fact.
All right. Well, then we have one more team that made some moves. So, again, I'm curious to pick your brains on this. The Swiss out there making some bigger moves than we may have expected. We were kind of used to Team Lausanne having that core of Lehmann, Wester Montagny, and Gilles Martin. Don't validate Wes Montagny, the leading rebounder in the pro circuit for the last 2 years. They don't validate Lehmann. They do validate, though, Jonathan Dubas coming over from Fribourg, and I'm going to try to get his name out right, Przemysław Zamoyski, a.k.a.
Pretty
Zebo.
good. Yeah, there you go. I stick with Zebo.
There you go. That's smart. You're a smart man.
Can y'all hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
We can.
I'm just making sure.
So Lausanne adding those two guys. Now, the 4 players validated again for Team Lausanne, and this is early, obviously, are Carlos Martinez, you had Jonathan Dubas, Gilles Martin, and Zebo. Let me, Vince, what do you think?
I mean, you're having one of the number 1 players in Poland trying to be the number 1 player in Lausanne. I think as a 6'4", crafty, that guard build is something that's going to be a nice addition to it. However, how is it going to be on defense against the big fellas? That's my own thing. Okay, you got technically Martinez can do that work. Martin, one of the shortest players in 3x3s on this team, does getting a 6'4" guard build hurt you or make you better? You got to be quick around the ball. It's going to have to be give and go, and you got to get quick points as soon as you can, because when it's going on the defense, if you got a big fella that's 6'8", 6'9", you're going to get gobbled up in the post. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Okay. So they don't validate Raphael Wilson. They don't validate Malik Hulujuweki.
Okay.
Marco Lemon. You mean to tell me that Zebo is an upgrade? No disrespect to Zebo. If he watches this, he knows I got love for him. I watched him battle for years, back when he paired with Money in the Bank. Like, look, he's an Olympian, but Zebo is a little long in the tooth. You understand? He's up there, man. Zebo's older now, man.
Yeah,
Lausanne is getting to a point to where I think they got to blow
40.
everything up. I do like Jonathan Dubas, sure, but I think they're to the point now to where they've got to just cut it clean. Whatever young talent that they've developed, they've got to roll the dice on these guys now. Not bringing in a near 40-year-old Przemysław Zamoyski out of Poland to play on the team. I don't know what they're doing with that Lausanne team. It's a big deal, and it's a bad deal.
Oh, snap.
I like that one.
That's great. Yeah, man. I here's what I wrote down. Again, I think Dubas is a wonderful addition.
Yeah.
6.4 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game on the pro circuit last year. He was a monster for Fribourg. And I think if he, because Kyle, you remember when we first saw him on the Swiss national team, we roasted this shit out of him.
He was like 8 layups in a row.
He was terrible. And he last year blew my mind. He was so good in the challengers that I hosted that I was like, all right, I got to rectify myself. Like that was not bad calls, but like I misjudged the cat. He was really good. So I think Dubas is a great addition. He's a facilitator as well. You can kind of build around his offensive talents, especially with the guys you have, because Gilles now is no longer a scorer. Gilles is a facilitator. That's kind of all he does now. Carlos took a step back last year from being, kind of a scorer, and he needs kind of that alpha dog. But they never really got it because Wilson didn't really click with them. I mean, look, I love Raphael Wilson. He's so good, but he never really got going with them. Hulujuweki too, like it was all kind of like this cast of misfit characters, right? It remains that with a 38-year-old Zebo coming in who scored a total of 9 points on the World Tour last season, but I do think it provides opportunities. I'm curious to see with them, and I think it's a to be determined for me who players number 5 and 6 will be. Will Wes step on the squad still? Is Wes going to go and do his own thing on the side? You know, as I mentioned, grand scheme of things as a country, it's very logical to have 2 pro teams. And Swiss had 2 pro teams last year with Fribourg and Lausanne, but Fribourg was kind of a part-time team.
Yeah, and they're thin talent-wise, right? So just like we talked about Mongolia having 2 teams, they're thin talent-wise. How can they? I don't know if they can field 2 competitive teams. Their A team may not be competitive. So
I mean, their B team did have Swiss Khalifa on the team. You know, but he plays. He's a part-time 3 Street player, though.
Yeah, him and his brother. Yeah, the Djurkovic brothers. But no, I'm not sold, Bas.
I mean, we can see. And Bas, you got a new bar, man. It's gonna be from Jay-Z. I want you to say, remind me to resurrect myself. I want to hear that song. That is gonna. I don't know
What
why
line was that?
What was that last word?
Remind me to. I just had it. It's gone.
It's remind me to reintroduce myself.
No. But I was saying his. Remind me to I can't pronounce the word no more.
Oh, rectify.
You know what?
Remind me to rectifect myself. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
All right. See, that's the perfect sign that we need to bring this show to an end. Vince, you need to lay down. Vince,
take a nap.
Yeah, Vince, you go lay down. You clearly have been sleep deprived, but you gave us your best and you made some good points today. And as always, we invite y'all to get active with us, chime in. Not only watch the episodes, but we want to know your thoughts, your comments. We're going to try to get y'all into the podcast as much as we can. Remember, as always, you can hit us up at Word on the Streets. That's on Instagram. And I'm talking like Vince. Replace the E's with 3s. That's Word on the Streets. Hit us up. But I think that's gonna do it for this episode, y'all.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We got everything in we wanted to get in. Look, for everybody curious about these validations and stuff, check out FIBA3x3.com. Obviously, all the info is there. If not, hit us up because we always have the answers. Thank you, guys. This was a good deep dive to me.
It was a good deep dive. And also, tune into the Champions Cup. This is the first time we're doing it. It's going to be amazing. So many countries just trying to fight to show they are the best in the world. And then you still got the World Cup, 15 starts for 2025. Please do not forget to follow us on Instagram and all social media platforms, and click that like or subscribe button on YouTube. We need them. We need those views. But yeah, I'm with the 2 best people, all in 3x3, Bas the Mountain and Kyle Montgomery the Voice. I'm the energy, and you can send them off, Kyle.
Peace.